Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome. It's April 10th, 2017. I think it's about 3 weeks since we had the monster snow, right there, Brent and everything?
Yeah.
And now it's about 80 degrees outside. I rode my bike in today, which is pretty good compared to being in a blizzard 3 weeks ago. But what we'll do, it's a little different tonight. We have a few big things and a few little things. We're in our budget sequence in the village, and tonight we had noticed a public hearing. We'll do that at 7 p.m., which it is now, and then we'll we'll open our regular meeting when we're done with the public hearing. So we'll sit down and get ready. I see folks out there have copies, and board members, you should have in your packet. Does everybody have theirs handy? I'm gonna just fire up my computer here a minute. I think I violated my first rule, Mr. Cameraman. Was I speaking without being near a microphone? Oh, good, thanks. What we're talking about there is we have a new way our mics go right to the PA, to the camera. So when your chance comes to speak, we will give you a traveling microphone, and you'll have to use that just so we can get all the comments and questions in. Anyway, welcome again. And to my left, we have a new person. For those that attend regularly, Charles Lang, welcome. Before we open the meeting, we were chatting, and we'll talk more about him when we get to the reorganization section of our meeting. But we had a village election March 21st, and Charlie won one of the seats. It's his first tour of duty, and we're looking at getting him up to speed as fast as possible. Jen is away. She won re-election. I have opened, since it's a reorganization meeting, I have a lot of papers in front of me, so I'm going to use her vacant space and work with that so I can run the meeting and switch to certain resources I have to look at periodically. But while I'm setting up, I thought we'd do a little lightweight stuff here. We had, over the weekend, we had our egg scramble. It's one of the multiple things the village runs, ranging from Hard Scrabble Day to Red Hook Halloween to Winterfest and a few others. But our local PD did a lot of work on this. And while I'm just sorting through my budget pages, I'll put this up. It's a little bit, I don't have external speakers. We'll see if we can do something here. But if you can see up there, I don't know if you can see it well enough, but our PD helped put the day on with the Red Hook Library and then a few other volunteers, including Funshine Nursery, Kathy Treble. But it was a great event. I know Brent made it up, but we had 6,000 eggs, believe it or not. And this is, pardon me?
The threshold.
You'll see a crowd in a minute.
Threshold.
Cameraman is getting it. Is it coming through on the camera okay? What we've done, I'm going to end it here, and we have it up on our website, and it's making the rounds different places. We can look at it later too. Let's get to what we really have to do here. Each of the board members should have color copies, one general fund, one water, one materials management. I'm going to work off my screens, which are a variation of the spreadsheets you all have. And we have some here on the front tables, you guys, whoever wants some. But as an overview, each year the village hears from the state of New York with regard to a tax cap. And the lay folks tend to think it's a 2% tax cap, but those of us in the business know that this year it was actually 1.15%. That means we can raise the tax levy only 1.15% to stay in compliance. The prior year was 0.12%, and the year before that was 0.68%. So one can do some math averages. It's never even been near 2% as far as an average. But to our credit, and congratulations to the board and the staff here, we've been able to provide services and stay within the cap. This year at a 1.15%, allowable increase, in our world, that means we have a free new $13,600 to play with. And when one's looking at a $1.2 million general fund budget, that's not a lot of wiggle room. We have contracts that go up in price, meaning with labor and so forth. But the way I work it and the way this board works it is we have meetings in February and March timeframe where we, as a cohort, so to speak, look at the budget together. Village law puts the burden on the mayor to submit the budget to the clerk, who then circulates it to the board members. We tend to work more collegially, and we don't have any big surprises that way. Plus, we get all the input of all the different trustees who head nominally different departments. So the one we submitted within the framework of the deadline has been circulated to the board. And our next deadline board is we have to adopt one by May 1st. My personal feeling is tonight I'd like to take public comment, take comment from the board, and I don't necessarily envision us voting tonight. I'll explain why. I'll give a few more background stories first. One was, as of, I think last night, the state budget was not quite certain where it was going to be. And what that meant for us, there was a component that listed what we call AIM money. It's funding to aid municipalities. And we get about $11,000 plus or minus from that fund, which in our world is a lot of money. Whether it would be included in the budget or not was up in the air because the governor was linking it to having the counties of the state push a linkage to where they would do a consolidation plan for us. And we didn't really like that idea. Did you guys, you're familiar with that, right? So we stayed within the cap. And Brent, do you want to jump into highway and talk about that, what you're doing there a little bit, and how you're working with chips and a few things like that? You got anything to say on highway?
We haven't gotten anything, any notification. We did last time. They gave us a little bit more money this year in chips, and I think they took away the emergency snow aid, but we knew about that, so we're pretty stable for chips. Highway, looks like we dropped some money there on fuel, so we're operating pretty lean and good on that. The department looks good and healthy. And
so we look across the board, we look at, okay, what's the tax cap? And like you all know, we have to provide certain services, and the goal is to maintain those services. And like I said earlier, we've been successful at that. So we seem, with the budget submitted, we're within a cap. The numbers are actually, before I said we had $13,600 we could increase, and this budget, my version, let's see, I hit a key that I shouldn't have hit here. Let's see. This budget is going up $12,233. What's kind of interesting to me, I have to put on my glasses here, is when we submit a budget, the treasurer takes it, we have a tax base in the village, and when the recession hit a few years ago, that tax base was diminishing. So it made it harder. What that means is you have less dollars in your tax base to drive your revenue out of. I'm going to spin down to the bottom here for a moment. That base this year went up to $198,679,000, which went up about $4 million from last year. So staying in the cap, and with that increase in tax base, this rate per thousand is now $6.01. So if your house is assessed at $300,000, you would pay 300 times $6.01, which is actually an 8-cent drop from the year prior. I'm inclined to leave it that way. We are generating some more revenue. Essentially, it's taking a little less out of each individual taxpayer, and it offsets some things we're doing in the water world where we are increasing the water rate and to help pay for phase 2 water. What everybody should know too is our budgets are all interrelated. We have general fund, which is up on the wall, and it's in your printouts as a separate. We have the water fund, and then we have material management fund. And when I say they're interrelated, we're having our highway department do more and more water. As you know, they do garbage pickup, and certain of the other two funds, water and material management, are user fee paid funds where those that buy garbage tags fund the garbage program, and really everybody buys water. There's no choice in the village. They fund the water program. So only the general fund relies on the tax base, whereas the others are user-based, but they do help us support the general fund because, for instance, in garbage, highway is the firm that picks up the garbage, so we pay their wage 1 day a week from the garbage fund. If we didn't have that, we would have to pay that out of the general fund and raise taxes more in the general fund. So that's an overview. Some of our regular attendees have more insight and can certainly ask questions. I don't know who else is here, if you have a question on the budget or not. But I guess we'll go, since it's a public hearing. Sure. Would you mind being our traveling mic person? You can say your name and-
Hi, I'm George Beekman, 15 Cherry Street. I just have some questions on some of the,
Sure.
on page 3 of 10, you've got lease maintenance, which wasn't there last year. That was $1,800.
Okay. You want to answer that one? I'll go one at a time. Yeah, we did. The court got a grant for a new copier, scanner, fax, multi-function machine. Their old one was wearing out, and we bought a new one, but it's we say bought, it's actually a 5-year lease, is it?
Yes.
5-year lease. So we put a down payment on it with the grant money, and then we're leasing it. So that's $1,800.
Okay. Page 4 of 10, you have postage. Went from 500 to 800, $300 increase.
What line is
Like
that
a-
under?
Quite a jump. A1410.47, clerk.
Yeah, it's just, we noticed, let me find it. Say this, the field number again,
A1410.47, postage. It goes from
Postage
5.
goes up, we mail out more things.
So what we do, George, are these sub-budget lines, so you notice the main budget line is 1410.4, right? It's in bold-faced letters. And then for in-house bookkeeping, we do these sub-budget lines, .41, .42, 43 down to .48. And this is how we know what we're spending the money on. So last year, we noticed a run that they've been spending more money on mailing, so we increased that line. But if you look at the total bottom line number, right, which is what the code is, we're actually dropping the amount allocated, right?
Yeah, that's
So
just
we're just
more of an explanation than
Yeah,
anything else.
it's just
So-
for us to keep track on, of if we're spending enough money on postage, or what the money goes for, where it goes to, and how they spend it. So it's a way for us to keep track of it.
Okay, on the next line down below, they got lawyer. It says annexation. You had 5,000 last year and nothing this year. What's annexation?
Yeah, you might remember from meetings, we were seriously looking at expanding the village south, in particular that Hoffman Farms project area. They were coming to us to buy water, and one option we had on the table is, rather than just sell you water, we'd rather get the tax base increase. But that's not in the cards, so we take the expense down.
Okay. Next page, on the public information, you have, I think that's Panda, so I
Mhm.
guess we're continuing for another 6,000.
Yeah. What line are you number?
A1480.4. That would be page 5 of 10, top.
A1,
But yeah, overall, yeah, we're staying, we have Panda filming us here tonight, as you know, and we made some adjustments to that budget, and right now, everybody's living with that, and that's the number we are at with them.
Again, my position on that has been, it's been a disaster from the start. It's not what it was pretended it was supposed to be, and it was supposed to be done by the schools, was supposed to be a freebie, and now we're paying for services that just created another organization that bleeds off the system, taxpayers. All right, down below that, you have digital communication, which wasn't there last
Right.
year. Now it's $4,000,
Right?
you're on page 5?
page 5 of 10.
Yeah, it's right below Panda. Go ahead, George, I know where you're headed, but,
I'm just asking what it is.
yeah, in line with part of A, what you just said,
Mhm.
our thinking is that we need to be able to communicate what we're doing, and our website is probably from 1992. So we're looking at ways to upgrade that, and we're putting some money aside to look at that. We're actually interviewing some people and different opportunities that we have to make a more modern website, possibly something we can control ourselves. Like, for instance, that film I was showing earlier, we get it produced at no cost to us. In that case, it was not Panda. But then we'd like to get it out there some way. And right now, we have to write to our web administrator, have them put it on, whereas we'd like to have something more flexible to us.
Okay. Going below on the same page, fuel and utilities, they've gone from 4,000 down to 1,000, a $3,000 drop. I'm just wondering,
Yeah, give me a line number,
fuel
George.
went down?
What-
A1640.42.
I know what it is, I just want to find it to make sure I'm,
Yeah, above that is central garage, welding services, and then fuel and utilities.
give me the number on my sheet.
Well, still a sub-budget line for central garage, right? So that's the amount we're spending, we've allocated for fuel and utilities, so that actually came down, so we're not spending as much money for heating, fuel, or that kind of thing.
Okay.
And what we did, basically, a lot of stuff were, because of these sub-budget lines, I think last year we actually put in welding services, because we do a lot of in-house repairs on the vehicles and stuff, so money that was originally allocated into that was put into there. So it's been reshuffled a lot, and you'll see at the bottom line, it's pretty close still.
Okay. Page 7 of 10, you have fuel there under maintenance of streets. And again, that drops from 10,000 down to 4.
And that's
Good
again-
news, I'm just wondering how you managed to do that.
Well, that's-
Electric vehicles?
It's good record keeping. So what we've noticed is that, we sign vouchers monthly, so we get fuel, we share fuel with the town of Red Hook, and they send us a bill. And so just by keeping better records, we're able to disperse this within the funds that we use. So the highway department, as Ed mentioned earlier, takes care of snow, so there's a fuel budget line for snow. For garbage, there's a fuel budget line. For water, there's a fuel budget line. So we were spending less in the highway on fuel, and that's why it came down, just to better reflect our actual costs.
Yeah, and part of it, George, too, is the budgets follow the economy. So 2 years ago, fuel was at a certain price, so the subsequent budget was at the 10. Now fuel, diesel's probably half of what it was 2 years ago. I don't know, Donnie, you.
Yeah,
like,
I just, only because of the $6,000 differences,
Yeah, no,
a
it's-
lot, and that's why I just was
And we
wondering.
do it both ways. We look at what went up and what came down. And if you look at my chart on the wall, remember I showed you guys last week, or last month rather, I have a middle column, 6-month actuals. And at that point, when we ran this study for me, we were at that sort of an actual number. And granted,
So again, George, these are all sub-budget lines, the maintenance of streets. So if you look at the bottom line in bold, we've actually gone down on and that's just, and a lot of that had to do with phase 2 too, because we had new streets on there. So we are anticipating less maintenance, so.
Okay, and maybe just one question on the snow removal. I see it's gone up 3. Is this just a plain plowing? Is this including the removal of snow? We got a fairly light year this year, but
What you're seeing is at 5142.1,
A5142.1, yep.
that's the personal service, so that's the salaries of the people.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's gone up a little bit, primarily a reflection of this winter. Snow is one of those things you just can't anticipate. So, and I think we brought on another full-time person as well, so that probably reflects in that cost.
yeah,
Okay.
that last part is a big part of it.
Okay, I mean, that's all right. So I think I was picking out at it.
Don Finn,
You know,
let me see. Security of the water.
Mhm.
Where does that go? Where does that go?
You asking what title it is within the budget?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's under Homeland. I think let me just, hold on a second, let me,
What comes out of water?
yeah.
It's from the water budget, right?
Right, that's out of water.
Page 1 of 10. Give me the number. It's page 1 of 10. It's A22600B, water, security water, police.
Yeah, let me just find it for you here, hold on.
On the first page, in the general one.
As a revenue source?
Yes, and it comes out of water.
But you're looking for the title of it, Don? I'm not understanding your question. Are you asking for a title?
Well, what you got there is you're saying 14,600.
Right, yeah.
Where is it? Where does that money go?
It goes, it's, to the wording of, we protect the health, safety, and welfare of the village. We have well fields and water fields that we protect with security, and we use our police to protect them. So it's patrols, it's certain things we do. We don't want to get too specific, but there's security systems in and around towers, well fields, distribution, and things like that.
Does it go in the police account? Where does it go?
Yeah, we pay the police to do the, you'll see a line, it is in the police. The police do the security service for us.
All right. What about the, let me see, it would be school police.
Mhm.
There's nothing listed there.
Yeah, it should be SRO. What are you looking at there, Don? Give us numbers.
Okay.
We,
312.
you have a number?
Six. Oh, he's probably looking under income.
Are you looking under income or expenses, Don?
If you're in the early pages, you're
Income.
on income.
School crossing guard, school police, 2261.
2261.
It's broken down, Don. It's, again, sub-budget lines below it.
But I can explain it for you, Don. There's a heading, which one's catching, we do certain police work at school activities, like night basketball games, dances, different things. Then there's SRO, that's the school resource officer. So that's money that the school pays us to send our officers over there in the revenue. Then it'll show in the expenses too.
If you look under the budget number 3120.1, police personal service, you'll see the costs that'll go directly to the police. And that corresponds with the income levels.
Now, let's go to the court receipts.
Mm-hmm.
And that 95,000 you project for this year, 90,000 last year.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Where does that go?
You ask a question? Okay. Where does it go? It goes into the general fund and operates the village.
And that's traffic tickets and everything else?
Yeah. Just to be clear, one thing, the 95 is a gross number, then the next line you'll see a negative 36. The state of New York controller, we have to pay money to, we don't, not every dollar is free and clear to the village.
Okay, what's this tower commission on page 5
Yeah.
at the
Is
very bottom?
that an expense page, Cindy?
Yeah.
We have over on our elevated water tower, we have several of the world leader cell companies up there, Sprint, Verizon, AT&T, and they pay us rent to be there. It involves a lot of engineering, a lot of contractual work, a lot of updates. So we have an engineer slash specialty firm that consults the village, and he gets a commission on the tower revenue. That's the tower commission. It's not actually a group of people, it's a person getting a commission.
Okay, on page 6, on the very top, where it says police salary village, 207, okay? I got a report here that the salaries last year were 277,000. Where do you cover that from?
Well, if you have to read and total them all up, and then, let's just see here, let me go back. I don't know if mine totals it.
It
But
totals
the
on
current,
the last page.
what I have up on my screens, you have village police, excuse me, 222,500. Is that what you show in yours, your printouts? Then you add school officer, school activities, town police, all those numbers. That's the number, that's the police salary total. Let me see if the system will do it for me here.
You've got it listed here, the total personal
He's on
service.
his spreadsheet.
Yeah, I'm doing mine.
not mine.
Yeah.
Should be the same, right?
So it does, you have to look at all of them on the, it goes with that theory, we break down the revenue, and then we try to break the expense within the expense part, so we can line them up.
Now, well, that's what we've been asking you right along. We want to see what the insurance is for the police department and expenses with the cars, everything else, and that, get that breakdown in one level.
Well, it's here, I mean,
So Don, if you
Not
look-
all of it.
Yeah, if you look on the next budget line, 3120.4, police contractual expenses. So that's the vehicles, the supplies, education, fuel, that kind of stuff.
No.
That's not it? And then 3120.1 is the personal service or the salaries. So that's all inclusive right there, those two budget lines.
What about support staff?
that's up in line A3120.12. What that is, the way we operate our staff, we're bare bones and we share people among departments. So that's the part-time secretary, nobody's making only that amount per year. That's what we attribute that person's salary toward the police budget.
All right, we got another one here, traffic control.
Okay.
It's on the very bottom on page 6.
$5,000.
Yeah,
That's the highway crossing guard for schools. And we share that, there should be a revenue line with the town of Red Hook. They contribute a little bit toward that. It's a very, very part-time position. It's not a police person per se.
well, you got a state, it's on income and that for a school crossing guard. And what are we showing, George?
1750.
1750. And you're saying this is covering that?
No, it doesn't cover it. They contribute. They don't, we share the person. So the town helps.
Well, you split it with the town, right?
Well, like you said, what if 1750 is not a real split? It's a apportionment.
Your microphone. But the battery died.
Would we lose a battery? What you could do, George, ask a question and we'll repeat it, or Donnie, whoever.
These new vehicles that you bought
Yes.
out here, got one, you replaced one from the Ford, that was a 2010. And you said that they gave you a replacement value, something on that particular vehicle, right? That they would,
Insurance.
replace it? And what was how much were the vehicles?
Question from the floor. We've lost the mic here. Sorry, folks, but the question from the floor is about 2 police vehicles. Question had a statement. One was an insurance replacement, and then follow-up was, how much were the vehicles? They were roughly $41,000 each. It was like $41,890, if I remember correctly. So That's-
You got to outfit the car.
that's all done, all done.
That's all in that
Yeah,
vehicle.
yeah, yeah.
Now, you leased one, didn't you?
That's right.
What's the lease?
Question is, we leased one, didn't we? And my answer was, that's right. And the lease amount is $9,587. Call it 96. You see 96 in the budget there.
Why do we need all these vehicles then?
Because we have an active police department that works in a field, and we need certain backup, we need certain contingencies, and we,
A lot of times I see two cars parked out here during the day, and one car out.
I don't know, I mean, we have shifts, we have school patrols, we have response to emergencies, we need a backup, we have looked at that, and that's the number of vehicles we need. And like you know, I think one almost has to take it out of the equation. when the one was lost, we did not plan to replace the Crown Vic that was lost in an accident. But with the insurance coverage we had, it was just impossible to say no. And we are building, if you look at the bottom of the budget, there's funds where we're throwing $3,500 a year into police capital and then also highway capital. This village never had a really functional capital replacement program, which means if something wore out, the village would scramble, how do you replace it? So we're trying to get that, but getting, the lease was an attempt to look at how do we afford it, and it almost forces a cycle of replacement. It's a 5-year lease. And then with the insurance money, we could get to, so in a sense, that department is totally capitalized for the next 5 years for vehicle type needs.
And that cost too, Don, is picked up in the debt service, line item 9710.6 and 9710.7. So those two numbers add up to what the number that Ed mentioned. Almost on the last page.
What about the training people you bring in to train these people? You know, like you've got you got a detective that you hire to train, and you got, I see other guys riding with these officers.
Question from the floor was, what about the training people? And then you're talking with regard to police. We do have a senior detective, and we do have one or two other, I think one is certified in giving us handgun lethal force training. The numbers you see in police salary, they're included in that salary. There's no other line for them. Quite frankly, one person you see fairly often around, but a lot of the other trainers are, I think one you'll see in our trust and agency vouchers, he's here so infrequently. He's a trainer on certain identification techniques and so forth, where he's on our payroll. All these people only get paid when they're here, too. That's important to know. And we're not just retaining people on consulting levels. Anything else? Well, you two, I don't know if you're here on the budget. And Gary, did you have anything on the budget?
I have questions to ask later.
Okay. From the board, anything? We have a new member, Charlie. I know he's been looking over the budget. It's,
I need to keep looking over it.
yeah, it's, just to recap. We've got general, we have water, we have material management. I guess the news-making category here, board, is when I look at the budget for material management, I do feel that we should consider raising the individual tag prices. Right now, we sell them at $2.50 for a small bag and $5 for a large bag. We haven't raised them in 6 to 8 years, and like you might recall, the current members, about 3 months ago, Ulster County Resource Recovery Agency, where we take our waste, advised us we can no longer get free single-stream recycling. They're charging us $20 a ton. So when one pushes that into the budget, it makes me think we need to increase that. Question I would entertain is, we sell these in-house, we sell them with the health food store and Max Agway. Talking a little bit of selling maybe with Taste Buds. The reason the staff is open 9 to 4, a lot of people need a tag 7 p.m. on a Sunday, and we'd rather have the cash flow than have somebody sit for a week with garbage and us not have the cash flow. The reason I had there is $2.50, should we take it to $3? And our rule of thumb is the small tag is exactly half the price of the large tag, which works if you're a homeowner and you happen to have 2 small tags and a big load of garbage, you can put 2 smalls on and you'll get through the pickup collection sequence. My thought and plan is Jen manages the waste, the materials management realm here. Since she's not here, we do have until our workshop to consider that and vote on that. But I'd like all you that are here to think about that. I do think we need to raise it. I think there's a certain functionality to round numbers. And then we haven't raised it in a while. So in this budget, what I'm proposing, it goes $2.50 goes to $3, and the $5 goes to $6. It keeps that same 2-for-1 relationship, and it makes it easier for the different entities and the public to know, okay, here's what I need to spend. we do know, I did sample what the private sector charges, and it's, if you're recycling with us and working within the scheme framework of a pay-as-you-throw program, we outcompete them on price. So I'd like you all to think about that, and then we'll talk more. In the water budget, just so everybody knows, the regular attendees know, we've been raising the water rates per quarter, a planned 3%, and that's projected in the water budget too, going forward. That helps us pay for phase 2. And we can talk more about that, where phase 2 is when Brent does his reports. But in the upcoming year, we will only have the exposure of interest payments for phase 2. The second year out, we'll have exposure for principal and interest. So, but our progression, our planned increase is designed to pick that up in the timeline it'll happen. So, that being said, any other questions about budget? I would entertain a motion, board. Shall we close the public hearing? Is there a motion on that? So moved. Second?
Second.
Is that your second? All in favor?
Aye.
So we'll close that. Why don't we take a 2-minute break, if you don't mind? I need a glass of water.
Warm in here?
Feels a little warm, but I feel like I've been talking a lot. I need some water. So cameraman, can you shut us down for 2 minutes? Off to regular meeting, if we could all rise and pledge the flag. We're gonna have to speak loud because the microphone's not working, so all together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome again. We did our friendly intros before, but still the April 10th meeting, and we have to do some reorganization here, and we welcome Charlie, who was elected, 3 weeks ago or so?
Red,
Charles Lang.
over here.
We have, and just so everybody knows, the way this board and this government works is we look and expect people of talent to run, and then we pick their talent and get the best out of them, and we work like we did with the budget collegially. We don't agree on everything, but we try to work those out or put them behind us and move forward. But part of what the state tells us is we have to do certain things at our reorg meeting. For those that watched Panda, we did a ceremonial swearing in, Monday a week ago, and we did it here. Charlie and his wife, and then Jennifer Norris and her family were here. And but more importantly, they sign an oath of office, which is the real test of the formal acknowledgement of accepting the office, and that happened before the ceremonial. But once again, welcome, Charlie.
Thank you.
And we'll have to, Jen is out on the West Coast. She's taking a spring break trip with her daughter, and leaving the 4 of us to carry on. But anyway, swearing in has occurred. A few other things we have to do. I'm looking through the village law handbook here for those that can't see what's on my desk. One thing we have to do every year is just reassert the official newspaper. We've gone up and down. We rely on Don Finn and George Beekman to be our reporters now, but we don't have a local newspaper is what I'm getting at. Really local, we had some, they seem to go up and down, and right now we have none. So we therefore rely on the Kingston Daily Freeman, and quite frankly, I've not seen a reporter here in, I don't know, 4 years. We could do something really newsworthy and get them to show up maybe, meaning I think when I see Mr. Kemble, maybe this will get his ire. We have a feeling he likes to find controversial stories, and then he shows up, so we can make some controversy, right, Brent?
Yes, sir.
But anyway, I would make a motion that the official newspaper be designated the Kingston Daily Freeman. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
And what that is, when we notice public hearings and special meetings and different gatherings, the clerk has to write to the Freeman. So that's where you would look if you're trying to follow us. But it segues into dates for regular meetings. We tend to be pretty regular. I intend to keep that going forward. The Village Board of Trustees always meets the second Monday of the month at 7 p.m. And the Village Board workshops are the third Thursdays at 7 p.m. Court, just so everybody knows, is really governed by the judge and his staff, but they held court on the first Wednesday, at 6 PM, and the Village Criminal Court is the third Wednesday at 3 PM. Our planning boards will continue with their schedules. They meet on the second Thursday at 7 PM. I used the plural there, that's the planning board, and then the zoning board of appeals would meet the fourth Thursday at 7 PM. The ZBA, the acronym for zoning board of appeals, only meets when there's a case that's got to be heard by that board, so don't expect to come here every fourth Thursday and have a meeting there. They don't do that. All meetings are held in Village Hall, all are open to the public, and any other committees and advisory boards meet as announced. And like we said, the Kingston Daily Freeman would be where you look for us, and we do have a website, redhooknyvillage.org. And we are handicapped, accessible, and so forth. Each year, we have to remind ourselves about our procurement policy. Essentially, we follow the guidelines of the state of New York for villages, and it's within our code book and within state law. We also have to designate depositories. That's essentially indication what banks we'll use. Here, I'd like to put it as a motion. As the board knows, we use KeyBank for all our municipal business. We do have a few CDs over at M&T Bank. So I would ask that for the next fiscal year, the Village of Red Hook also continue to use KeyBank for its regular accounts, and then M&T for its certificates of deposit. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Any discussion?
Is there, are their fees being held stable now? There's
They
no
don't have any
indication
fees.
of anything?
Brent's question, other years you might remember in budget sequences, we had, I don't know if I'd say threats, but we were being faced with KeyBank charging us money, but they've moved away from that stance, which is great. So that's why you'll see in the budget no line for that. And just so everybody knows too, with municipal governments, we can only use commercial banks and banks that have high collateral protection. There's always rules where, since we do move a fair amount of money, even though we're a small municipality, we move several $1 million a year through, these banks protect our assets and the taxpayers' assets versus other banks that they're not as collateralized, and so KeyBank has to do that for us, and they do. So I think we had a motion, a second, Key and M&T. Is there all in favor?
All right.
Aye, too. You good with that, Cindy? And then what we normally do at this meeting is just go through our individual responsibilities. I would like to leave everybody the same. We do have a new fifth person replacing a trustee. So my thoughts were, and this isn't necessarily a vote, this is more just discussion amongst ourselves, but I would like Charlie to work with us to replace what we had under the facilities. It's like village building and grounds, and then we'd have to break into the water department, but it's a big piece of what we do, but if you could help with that. Just so you know, Charlie comes from a background where he works with New York City DEP, so he is familiar with land use and water and so forth. So I think we try to tap into that expertise. And then, so I was thinking, just to recap it, Jay, I'd like you to stay with Planning, Zoning Department, Veteran Affairs, and Emergency Services. Norris, she's not here. Brent, I would like to reappoint you as Deputy Mayor, and also have you still oversee the Highway Department. And then we put in parentheses, infrastructure, streets and sidewalks, so to speak. And then architecture and historic resources, Village Green and Red Hook together. I know you wear more hats than that, but I think we'll give you those, and then I think the other ones you put on. And then some appointments, we have to just go over this time of, the election cycle. Like I said, I'll put these in the form of like group motions. I would like to reappoint Brent as Deputy Mayor, Cindy Sharella as Clerk, and then Cindy Sharella also as Treasurer. Is there a second on that? All in favor? Then to assist the staff, we would have Deputy Clerk Lara Hart, Administrator and Secretary to the Planning Board, Ari Drews, Village Attorney McCabe and Mack, Special Prosecutor Christopher Montalto. Is there a second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Within the police department, they're all straight employees. I don't see any need. They're not officers of the village government, so to speak, in that sense. But we would retain Sergeant Hildebrand as a sergeant of the department. We still have one full-time employee and the rest are part-timers. And we do have crossing guard Mary Kay Giannatta. And then in the highway department, as Brent mentioned earlier, we moved to put 3 folks into full-time positions, and we have 2 part-times. But again, they're straight employees. They're not executive officers or any administrative officers. We get to some other ones that Cindy wears another hat. This could be subject to an appointment. It's Registrar of Vital Statistics. And then I'd like to put as her Deputy Registrar, Lara Hart. That's essentially when somebody dies within the village. We keep the death records. What else does that do? Is that your main thing?
Birth,
Birth? Yeah.
marriage certificates.
So if your kid's born in Rhinebeck, do they get a birth certificate here? Or so I guess if you're born at home, she knows about it. But so those 2 then would be Cindy for Registrar of Vital Statistics and Lara Hart for Deputy Registrar. Is there a second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Again, there's some authority I'd like to convey here. Water operator, it's a credentialed licensed position, and right now we have a certified operator, Brett Smith. I'd like to reappoint him. Is there a second on that? All in favor?
Aye.
And in the court world, as we all know, the judge himself is elected, but then there's a prerogative within that department where it's essentially they are quasi-independent of us as our board. Jonah Treebwasser is the elected judge. He's asked in written format to have us reappoint Jeffrey Martin as Associate Village Justice. What that is, if Treebwasser has a conflict or is traveling, Martin would cover. Court clerk, these are part-time positions, would be Kathy Fell. And then clerk to the justice, Elizabeth Young. I would entertain a motion to honor the judge's wishes there and reappoint them. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
In our planning zoning world, we have a code enforcement, zoning enforcement officer. We've been working with Robert Flores as acting CEO, ZEO, and I would like to keep Jay Trapp as our ADA coordinator. Building inspector, we have a few names here. Robert Flores is the acting building inspector with help from deputy building inspectors Gary Beck and Clark Kimball. And then in that world, there's a planning zoning secretary, Ari Drews. She's being trained and brought to work in that department more. So to recap it, CEO, ZEO, and building inspector Flores, Trapp as ADA coordinator, Beck and Kimball as deputy building inspectors. Is there a motion to do that?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Village engineer, I'd go with CT Mail Associates, and I'd like to keep them. Is there a second on that?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Now we go to zoning and planning. What we've got is the Zoning Board of Appeals. From what I can see, the chair is still in his cycle of his appointment authority, and he has indicated he would like to stay chair. That's a key thing to make sure the chair is staying. Then reviewing with our planning secretary, Caroline Ryder is the one coming off that would need reappointment in this cycle. So I'm going to move that she be reappointed. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Has she agreed to that?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the planning board side of things, chair is Beth Pagano. It looks like the one coming off with the normal cycle is Donald Hanson. And I've talked to him. He may or may not be staying here, but he's here now, so.
You
he'll-
mean in the village here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Should clarify that. In our village, one has to be a village resident to be on these two boards. So Hanson still owns his property, still lives here, but so we'll reappoint him for now. So I would ask for a motion to reappoint Donald Hanson.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Village Green, these are more informationals. Again, they're not executive or administrative positions, but one reason we do it is they do interact with the public, like the Hardscrabble Committee, and just to protect them and get them a formal committee shield. You know, if they're out planting a tree or, you know, something happens, they're essentially working as a formal part of our government in the volunteer capacity. So we have Francis Uku, Kathy Pearson, David Pearson, Juliana Pearson. It's an active family there. Brenda Cagle, ex officio, Jeffrey Urban, and Dave Javsikas. Brent oversees that group, but he gets his authority as being an elected official. So I'd like to bring them all back under the auspices of that committee. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the same process for the Hardscrabble Committee. It's a committee that does Hardscrabble Day, Red Hook Halloween, Winterfest, Egg Scramble. They do interact with the public and put a lot of the village out there. That committee is currently Matt Donahue, Karen Sipperly, Sue McCann, Julie Silverstein, Doug Strawinski, Bobby Joe Forte, Kathy Treble, Emily Trapp, Kim McGrath. And again, I would ask for a second on that.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And let's see, Spectrum Cable, that's the new name for Time Warner Cable. Somewhere in the history, we felt we had to appoint a rep to deal with them, and it's been the mayor, so I would just rename myself there. Appeals officer, that would be if staff, employees, vendors, if anybody has some sort of issue with the village, wanted to bring it up to an appeal, that would be me too. So I would ask to be renamed as Spectrum Cable Rep, not that I'm selling Spectrum Cable, and appeals officer. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then we're still in the search for a village historian. This is kind of like the other committees. It technically has to be a village resident. So far, we've been able to arm wrestle. If you look at my page there, an agent at Historic Red Hook. Once in a while, we have to do a report to the county historian. I've been able to convince somebody to help us do that report. But really, if you know anybody, it doesn't really mean you have to be a history teacher or history expert. It's almost more of a throwback. It looks to me, when I read the law, it's almost what our clerk does every day. It's more retention of records. Essentially, I don't want something to be lost to posterity, and they just want it to be safely stored. And right now we do with Iron Mountain, you know, things we do move off. But anyway, if you know anybody who wants to be village historian. And then the last one, I penciled in, it's not on your sheets, Panda Rep. This is who represents us at the board of directors of Panda TV 23, and we've been working with Mark Durand, and I would like to reappoint him. Is there a second on that?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you.
You gotta do the library board then?
No, they were all within their appointment terms, so I don't need them. One or two more. We do utilize the services of what we call consulting controller. What that is, I was showing Charlie, each month the village incurs bills. We have the treasurer's office, the board of trustees, and it's $1 million+, you know, call it $2 million when they put water in there. So we do feel this controller has helped us. I'd like to keep her on board. She's an hourly employee, just so people in the audience know that. I should actually rephrase that, an hourly consultant is the accurate term. She's helped us greatly move through, updating and getting financial packages together. That would be Michelle Zagorski. I would like to continue with her. Is there a second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then, in the legal world, we have McCabe and Mack. That's our retained village counsel. So when we have a question and we need a particular answer, they are on retainer. It's not an hourly attorney relationship. It's we pay them per month, sort of like the Tower Commission that you saw. We use within the firm Rich Olson as our main person, but the firm's big enough where they can ask around when there's more specific questions that need help, and that's what's been good about them with us. They're a multi-member firm, so if it's something not within Olson's expertise, he can ask within the firm. And then if not, we go outside to specialty firms. If we have a particular labor question, we have a firm, but we don't need to name those specialty firms. I would just like to name McCabe and Mack, since they do get a monthly retainer, and I'd like to continue with them. I think it's been a working relationship that works to our benefit. Is there a second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then CT Mail, it's a similar story, but they are on the engineering side. Now, we see Robert here on a lot of sewer and water discussions, but there are general engineering things we deal with every day, and I'd like to continue that. So I'd like to appoint CT Mail Associates as our village engineer. Again, it's not like the McCabe and Mack. It's not that they're on retainer. It's just as we need them. But I'd like to have them as the go-to point. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And the last two things we talked about, Key Bank and Kingston Daily Freeman. Well, I think that is it on the reorg. Let me just look at one other page here that I've tabbed. It's my obligation to talk to the board. We talked about procurement policies before. And within municipal law, there's couple things we need to talk about. That if anybody has like financial disclosure requirements, if you happen to be a partner in McCabe and Mack or some entity that we're paying money to, you need to disclose that to us. We tend to know that beforehand. As far as gifting policies and so forth, no one person can offer to pay any board member more than $75 for a gift, and so we would ask that you keep that in mind if anybody's talking to you or asking you to do a favor. Usually there's a reason they're asking for a favor, but the law does say $75. We do have a code of ethics within our code, and that's available for especially new folks to read. But just keep that in mind. And there are sections that deal with dual office holding, compatibility of offices. Right now, we know even with the new election, that does not appear to be on point. We've looked at that, and that looks to me to wrap up the reorganization, gets us ready to move into what we do every meeting, the real business of the village. And let's switch gears to do that. Sometimes what we do is we have certain people that might not want to stay for the whole meeting. If you wanted to come for a particular purpose and want to leave, you could acknowledge and we could talk to you now instead of making you stay, or if you want to hang out for the whole meeting. You good? Everybody good? Yeah. Okay. One of the more routine things, actually, we review and approve minutes, and it looks like March, Cindy, was actually a quiet month for this board, huh? 2 meetings only?
Yeah.
They were March 13th and March 16th, so you have workshop meeting, and that was March 16th, and then the regular village board meeting was March 13th. I reviewed them, and we've circulated them. Are there any additions, alterations, or corrections? Hearing none, is there a motion to accept those minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You voting over there?
I'll abstain.
Huh?
I wasn't
Okay,
around, so I
okay.
think I should abstain.
Okay, that's a good point. Thank you for that. Our next steps, Cindy, you want to do the treasurer's report?
Account balances as of April 10th. General fund, $387,297.50. Water fund, $96,308.16. Trust and agency, $24,268.83. Materials management, $6,887.38. Petty cash, $32.20. Village Green, excuse me, $4,136.88. Hard scrabble, $6,439.34. Health insurance, $9,407.24. And monthly expenses, general fund, $200,002, $913.07. Water fund, $63,134.87. Trust and agency, $24,268.83. And materials management, $4,826.30.
So what do we have, Cindy? Today's the 10th, half of April.
We're in very
and
good
then
shape.
Half of April.
I got paid for the last year's village taxes from the county.
Good.
Still have not received a chip submission. Most of the big bills are all paid, and most of the big incomes have come in. So we're doing good.
Is there a motion to accept the treasurer's report as presented?
So moved.
Any discussion?
Just
All in
wonder,
favor?
how much was the CHIPS reimbursement request that we had?
I don't, off the top of my head, I don't remember, 27,000 maybe?
That included the truck, right?
Yes.
All right.
Good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Second on that.
Second.
I did get a second, I think. I went to discussion. He jumped in late just before I went to vote. Let's see. We could do myself here doing the police report for the month of March. We had a total of 401 incidents. It breaks out 317 in the village, 80 in the town of Red Hook, 4 in the village of Tivoli. Those incidents then go to either, can be going to a ticket or an arrest. There were 146 tickets issued, 101 of them were in the village of Red Hook, 9 were parking tickets, and 45 were in the town of Red Hook. Arrest, 23. It breaks out 10 in the village of Red Hook and 13 in the town of Red Hook. And again, the attached pages, Charlie, show like a detailed breakout from their runs.
Right.
Looks like we could skip to Mr. Trustee Trapp. You want to do yours?
Yeah, man. Okay, here we go. I'm on the Dutchess County Planning Federation Board of Directors, and we have slated our spring classes, and we have, I guess, had the email sent around, and it's been forwarded to the Village Planning Board. But we have 3 classes, 2 of which are set, and 1 of them we're still struggling for the place and time at this point. But the first class is April 25th. It's in Millbrook Farm and Home Center on Route 44. Tuesday, it's a long one, 4 to 8:30, and it has 2 classes. I think everybody gets 4 credits. Pretty much wipes you out for the year if you attend at this point. The introduction to planning and zoning that we do every year. There are a lot of new people appointed every year, so we try and have that 1 class set. And part 2, after dinner, we do feed you too for the $5 what a treat, right? So it's called Hot Button Land Uses, and it's going to be talking about barn weddings, short-term rentals, which is another name for Airbnbs. We're going to kind of get into that. Farm wineries, distilleries, mining, street vendors, food trucks, backyard chickens. Okay, that's a hot topic. So The second is May 31st on Wednesday, Beacon, the renaissance of a community using code enforcement, planning, and zoning. It's going to be some people from down there that kind of talked about how they put Beacon back together, pulled it back, and if you go to Beacon, you know it's a pretty cool place. There's a lot of stuff going on down there. The third class that we have not scheduled yet to be announced is called Shifting Your Perspective. And it's experience, it's a plan for accessibility challenges. We're actually going to have people out in the parking lot paired up and in wheelchairs, crutches, walkers, to understand the challenges of somebody that is actually not functional in that respect. And we're going to let everybody experience that. And then the second half of the class is we go inside and we all talk about it and we understand. I 3 or 4 years ago broke my foot, and boy, what a reality check that was, trying to get around. I mean, a half-inch lip makes a heck of a lot of difference when you're trying to get in a door and you're rolling. So I think that's going to be pretty cool. And I think Ed appointed me for emergency management, and on the morning of our first class in Millbrook, I will be in Albany doing floodplain management and emergency management training. So as a code enforcement officer, we have to do 24 hours of training every year. So that's going to be interesting. I'll bring it back for everybody here. So in the planning and zoning in the Village of Red Hook, 7 building permits were issued the past month. No certificates of occupancy were issued. 3 certificates of compliance were issued. 2 municipal searches were conducted. There was only 1 fire inspection conducted this month. No orders to remedy, no stop work, no court appearances, and no complaints. The planning board had 3 items on the agenda: sign approval, site plan approval, and a subdivision application. And the Zoning Board of Appeals had no agenda this past month, and the money tendered in the building department was $950. And that's it.
Thank you, Jay.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. Charlie, what we tend to do is let Brent go last since he has a pretty long litany of things. Do you have the water report in front of you?
I seem to have a water report in front of me
He sounds like he has a very bad cold.
because I have a very bad cold.
Speak well enough and give us that water report.
Absolutely. So for March 2017, during the month of March, the water treatment plant treated 6,543,000 gallons of water at an average of 211,000 gallons per day. The plant used 55 gallons of liquid hypochlorite solution at an average of 1.77 gallons per day. 3 samples of water were taken to the lab for bacteriological testing, and all 3 returned a negative result. In March of 2016, the plant treated 8,327,000 gallons of water at an average of 269,000 gallons per day, I assume. This represents a decrease in treated water volume of 58,000 gallons per day, or 1,784,000 gallons for the month. Okay. Oh, and I have a little conservation tip here. Is it
Yeah,
customary for me to read that as well?
Yeah, they would like you to read that
Okay,
too.
right. Conservation tip for the month of March. When waiting for hot water to arrive at the kitchen faucet, consider catching this water in a pitcher to use later for drinking or cooking.
Thank you, Charlie. Yeah, and that's his first between the cold and the Scotsman accent there. It's pretty interesting. Huh? Thank you.
Good quality. Might it not be helpful for the future to, this kind of numbers data to be charted so you can compare last year and this month and
The way
this
we
year,
manage,
this
Charles, if I think it's a good idea. You came up with it.
Okay,
You could make a spreadsheet.
Get a little graphic, we could
could-
slap it on your
We can
computer.
do, I do that with budget number,
Okay,
do numbers and make graphs.
just
But,
do a little.
But to Charlie's point, what we've been seeing, though, consecutively is a drop in from this year, from last year, of about 60,000 gallons per day in drinking water, and
Which seems quite significant.
we attribute that to phase 2 of the water,
So that's the leaks being sorted out.
right?
We've been on the search for the Holy Grail in the water department for what, 6 years?
Long time.
These are the most promising month-long numbers we've seen since Phase 2 wrapped up. So the regular attendees back there, the ongoing quest to find, what we're talking about is we pump X gallons, you would hear him read those, and then we sell Y number of gallons. And there's always been this gap between X and Y. And we've been looking for that Y.
But it's
That delta.
narrowing.
Huh? Now, yeah, it's definitely
Right.
narrowing. Yeah, we could do some math, but yeah, we used to. The rule of thumb, we would do 240,000 gallons a day. It was like on the light side of average. Yeah, so
Okay.
so, but that's pretty good news. Thank you, Charlie. Maybe I'll jump into Trustee Norris, who's out on the West Coast somewhere. I have to find her pages first. I might put something up on a screen here, just. It's for all of us. Let's see, let me shrink it a little bit here. It's pretty big. What we did years ago, and sort of what Charlie's talking about with regard to water, but for materials management, we built a spreadsheet, and Jen continues to use it. Like we said before, single stream recycling, and then household garbage are the things we pull away. This line here, tag sold. What was interesting, since she was away, I tinkered with the formula a little bit, and corrected what had been happening was each number we were seeing was being divided by 12 months, so there's a lot of zeros in there. But now it's just by the months actually with actual tag sales. So we're averaging 39.27 per month in tag sales. If you predict that out times 12, it's like 47,000, which is in line with this year's budget. But like we said about an hour ago, we now are getting charged for single stream recycling. You can see let's see where she's picking that up here. Single stream, you can see where it went from zeros here, and then it starts picking up, and the village has a great recycling percentage, which is perfect, but it means times $20 a ton is something we never budgeted before, so we have to incorporate that. But anyway, these numbers, I kind of wanted to show that, and I was looking at it myself since she was away. We do see some odd dips, like February, one would get nervous, just about $2,300 in sales, but then March came up to 4,700 almost. So anyway, in line with her report, let's see, we'll flip it over. On the materials management side, for the month of March, they paid out $1,034 in tipping fees and sold $4,662.50 in tags. Breaks out 5.13 tons of recycling and 9.78 tons of garbage. So essentially 10 tons and 5 tons. It's an amazing recycling rate. And one thing, Jen, when she gives us this report, she's just $1,034 is just the tipping fee number. That does not include paying the men and the truck and the fuel and all those things, which are our budget. She just keeps track of the tipping fees. Anyway, on the other side of what she does for us, the community relations and celebrations, we got our annual letter from our VFW, Memorial Day and observance ceremony coming up May 29th this year. So we always have a nice parade and a great, I don't know if ceremony is the right word, but it's an observance at the Memorial Park, which is owned and maintained by the village. It's a really great day, and it's a great event for Red Hook, and the VFW does a great job. So plan on coming out to that and honoring the vets.
And free hot dogs, too.
Yeah, if you want, you can wander back to VFW. It's just a walk, but you can go back and get free hot dogs. Brent, inside joke, if there's cookies or free anything, he's kind of in the loop on it. I think that notice came in after Jen left, so I wanted to put that out there. But she was going to report on the egg scramble. We didn't get to look at too much of the video, but go on our website and look at it. It's really fun. There's about a 6-minute video up there. There were several hundred people there and 6,000 eggs, and it was put out and worked on by our Red Hook Police Department, the Red Hook Library, and in conjunction with the Red Hook schools, they let us use their grounds at the Linden Avenue Middle School. It was really good. And then the Community Center, Jen says, will hold their grand opening on Earth Day, April 22, from 12 to 4. This is over on Baxter Road. She says, come tour the center, become a member, become a volunteer, experience many of the local organizations' Earth Day themed activities for all ages. And they hope to do a film screening at the Community Center in May. Stay tuned for details on that. I think in our village we have a couple of film producers of some renown, and Jen's trying to talk one of them into doing a screening over there. Big thing with spring coming on, summer coming on, the annual bike rodeo. So we can get our bikes tuned up. It's to be the bike rodeo and Tour de Red Hook Saturday, May 6th from 1 to 4 at the high school parking lot. You get a free bike tune-up and helmet checks. And then younger people, even people our age, you can test your skills on a set-up obstacle course. So you're ready to hit the streets and not get too much harm to yourself or other traffic done. It's done in conjunction with Red Hook Police Department, especially Officer Wilson, the town of Red Hook, and Kingston Cyclery. It's pretty neat. You can bring your bike up and they actually check your brakes, your shifters, and it's free. No rain date for that event. Apple Blossom Day, which is organized by the Red Hook Rotary Club, will be May 13th. That's a Saturday before Mother's Day, and you'll be seeing information coming out on that. And we did the materials management report. I think that's all we had from her. So, let's see, looks like Deputy Mayor Kowalczyk, you ready to go?
Yep. Start with the Village Green Committee monthly report and start with the balances of the related budget accounts. Community beautification, contractual expenses, we have a balance of $2,534.82. Shade tree contractual, $6,700, and the Village Green checking account is $4,136.88. The Village Green Committee met on March 4th in the Village Building, and we are gearing up for our annual spring planting and Arbor Day celebrations. So we talked a lot about that, and I'll go into more details as we get down the list. Juliana Pearson, representing the Village of Red Hook Village Green Committee, attended the 11th annual ceremony at the Albany Hilton Hotel on March 30th. We are now in the 15th year as the Tree City USA, so we're very proud of the accomplishments that we've done. Close to 500 trees in those 15 years. So, and some of the major events that we'll be planting, our trees for the annual spring planting will be delivered on the 19th, and I'll be helping to pick those up out of the truck. We'll be digging holes on the 21st of April. Our spring planting day is Saturday, April 22nd, and anybody who wishes to be a volunteer and help us plant trees, we do have 11 trees we're planting this year. We meet at 9 o'clock at the Village Building parking lot, break up into teams, and go out and plant trees. So the holes are pre-dug. It's not too strenuous, but a lot of fun, and hopefully it won't be raining because it gets very muddy and the ground gets heavy. And so younger people are encouraged to come help out. We also are having a joint Arbor Day celebration and luncheon for our volunteers and committee members at the Red Hook Town Hall on Saturday, April 29th. And this will be a lunch provided by the Red Hook Town Tree Commission and open to the Village Green Committee and the volunteers who had helped plant trees over at the Red Hook Town Hall, and that starts at noon. So everyone who's interested in planting trees can contact me, the clerk, or David Pearson, and but please let us know so we have enough food for you when we get out. The Village of Red Hook Highway Department, the big news is that hopefully this is the last time I'll talk about the snow, but the Village Highway Department did remove snow and ice from the General Business District on March 16th through the 17th. They started work at 6 o'clock p.m. on the Thursday, evening and finish 7 a.m. Friday morning. A long day.
You do a great job, too.
They do a fantastic job. They actually hauled away 200 truckloads of snow. Each truckload contains 20 yards, so it's a fair amount of snow. And assisting the village with this removal, we contract with private contractors, and they all kind of pitch in and help us. So I'd like to thank them for their work. Frank Vosberg, excavating and paving contractor, Dave Vosberg, Landworks, Agnes, excavating contractor, Fast Tracks, Thomas LeGrand, excavating, the Town of Red Hook Highway Department, and the Red Hook Village Police Department all pitched in. So thank you very much for that. The Village Highway Department will begin its monthly lawn debris and brush pickup in April, and will continue every first and third Mondays of the month. Residents are reminded to place lawn debris curbside and separate brush, lawn debris, and grass clippings in separate piles. Please store debris out of sight until the scheduled pickup dates to prevent conflicts with other village services and to help keep our streets clean and free from wind-borne debris. And please limit the size of piles to 6 feet by 6 feet by 6 feet. And this is actually based on the size of our bucket on our backhoe. And please do not include tree trunks or debris from tree maintenance performed by private contractors and/or professional tree maintenance companies. Street sweeping will begin in early May 2017. This usually happens before apple blossom. Residents are reminded to sweep sand and gravel from the lawn edge into the street. Do not push sand and gravel into piles, but into a line. It just is easier for the street sweeper to pick up. The Highway Department and Water Department has assembled a list of water infrastructure repair projects for the Board of Trustees consideration. We did receive some preliminary estimates. We're looking at projects that include the following locations. 2 new valve boxes at Knollwood Commons. There's a new water service at the Cookingham Tenant House. 2 new services at Colburn's Laundry. A valve box at Cherry and Grave Street. Another valve box at Amherst and South Broadway. A new shut-off box at the Village Diner and on Benner Road. East of Fraley Street, 8 new services, 2 new fire hydrants. There were no sales of scrap metal during the month of March. The total revenue generated for this fiscal year, I think we have 1 more month left, so maybe we'll get some more, is $2,410.65. Since the inception of the scrap metal recycling program in September of 2007, $21,658.67 has been generated. The proceeds from this program go toward the purchase of tools and equipment for the village highway, water, and materials management departments. Residents and businesses interested in donating scrap metal can contact the highway department at 758-8600 or the village clerk's office, and the highway department will assist by picking up scrap metal upon request. And I also do have, Ed, for you.
Yeah, I have a copy of that too.
All right.
Do you want to move on this, Brent?
Yeah, if we could. And what this is a proposal from Custom Street Services LLC to provide street sweeping services. So they did give us an estimate. We did budget for this. We do this every year. So the numbers that they proposed is sweeping of village streets. That usually includes the parking lot at $3,000, and then sweeping, just kind of touching up what the DOT missed on Route 9 and Route 199 at $630.
Yeah.
And that's about it. So a total number of $3,630.
And you said it's consistent with our budget. I didn't.
Yeah, we usually plan that for that, so that comes out of the maintenance of streets budget line, street repair and maintenance. And this has been pretty consistent, and Custom Street Services does a pretty good job.
Yeah,
Actually, a very good
they do
job.
very good job, yeah. And, yeah, we might as well get them lined up and reserved. Today's April 10th. We want it done the first week of May or so.
Yep.
So you want to make a motion there, sir?
I'll make a motion that we, I guess, approve the proposal from Custom to Sweetbar Streets at a total cost of $3,600 and, was it $30?
I'll second it. Any discussion? As far as discussion, Dan, looks, there aren't too many people in this business anymore. We used to work with one, Easy Street was one, but,
And we
These-
did
these
try
days-
shared services with the town.
Yeah.
So this is the most cost-effective and good quality work.
so it's moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. I think we interrupted you. You probably had more to go there, right, Brent?
Oh, yeah, not one. Reddick Infrastructure and Intermunicipal Task Force monthly reports. The Reddick Sewer Project is progressing nicely. We had meetings on March 3rd, 10th, 17th, 24th, and 31st in the Reddick Village Building. We reviewed the process and procedures to qualify for the Dutchess County Partnership for Manageable Growth Program. And actually, after meeting with the Department of Health in February, the processes and steps that they would like us to meet to get kind of advanced approval to move ahead with certain businesses just seemed a little bit too much for us at this point. So we won't be pursuing that option. We also reviewed the status of the option agreement and fee purchase contract for the conveyance of the existing treatment plant and land from the Red Hook Commons Sewage Works Corporation to the Village of Red Hook. So we're continuing to work on that part, and this is for, again, the sewer treatment plant and the land out behind Red Hook Commons. We also had a meeting with Thomas Field and Douglas Clark from Ryan Biggs Clark Davis Engineering Survey. They'll be helping us as associates, actually CT Mills associate engineers, and they were the design engineers for the town of Hillsdale sewage system and also the village of Kinderhook. So their experience and expertise in this will be very beneficial. We did a lot of forms for USDA. They're all mentioned if you're very interested in that. We've also submitted our map plan and report to the New York State DEC for their review and consideration. We submitted a lot of things that we are obligated to submit. We've also been, the Red Hook Economic Development Committee, the Red Hook Public Library, and the Red Hook Chamber of Commerce have been sponsoring Red Hook sewer conversations and informational meetings, and we had 3 of them actually in the month of March. 2 at the library in the evenings and 1 at the Elmendorf Inn, and we just finished our last one at the Elmendorf last week. And Ed and myself and Robert Flores all present little aspects on, actually big aspects of the sewer project, different components that we're working on. The preliminary funding agreement for a $3.7 million 0% interest short-term loan was executed on March 23rd. That was with New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation. The Red Hook Village Water Project, Phase 2. We're trying to wrap up on that right now. We just had a punch list submitted for Jerson, who are the contractors on that. We've been trying to get our paperwork aligned with USDA and also with New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation, which I think we're pretty close. We haven't received any new memos from our friend George Pop. We're still working on the mid-block crosswalk signals. And maybe Ed will talk about this a little later, but we did qualify for the Federal Highway Administration FAST program, which handles bridges and tunnels and major work. This is an $88,000 project to put LED blinking lights at 4 different locations, mid-block crosswalks, 3 on South Broadway, 1 on West Market Street. Push a button there, solar powered LED, so it would alert drivers to a pedestrian who wants to cross. So we're still working on that. We actually got an email from the New York State DOT to possibly transfer the FAST funding to a New York State contract, and this will have the New York State DOT construct the work and possibly absorb the design construction cost. And this, again, is due to the limited size of the project. We also, the Village of Red Hook submitted an application for zero emission vehicle, or ZEV, clean vehicle infrastructure rebate. The estimated cost is for electric vehicle charging stations for the Village Municipal Parking Lot. The estimated cost of $23,382 will require a 20% matching contribution from the Village of Red Hook, which is $7,382. And I think we budgeted for that, right?
Well, we have a net grant too.
Yeah, the
We can talk
match.
about that in
Right.
the business section.
On the task force side, I'm happy to say that Charlie sits on the task force currently representing the Red Hook Town Planning Board, but his input will be good, especially now he has a little insight view on what the Village of Red Hook is doing. Hopefully we can pull some of that stuff in there as well. The task force met on March 3rd, 10th, 17th, and 24th in the Red Hook Town Hall, and we are looking at proposed zoning amendments to regulate solar energy or photovoltaic projects in the town of Red Hook, specifically looking at the locations that will be permitted, size, screening, and costs. We are reviewing a proposed Upper Red Hook Hamlet Business District. We're considering the bulk regulations, uses, parking, and architectural guidelines. And we're also looking at, we just started looking at the proposed zoning amendments to regulate size, signs, location, and materials of the signs in the town of Red Hook. And one last report. The Red Hook Economic Development Committee, both Ed and I are liaisons on that. The EDC met on March 8th and March 22nd at the Village Building. Actually, the 22nd was held at the Elmendorf. We're discussing possible recommendations to the Red Hook Municipal Boards to support local refugee resettlement programs. We reviewed updates of the Red Hook Village Merchants Group. This is a new merchants group, and they just started last Friday, April 7th. Most of the village retail merchants will stay open till 9 o'clock a.m., and they'll be doing this every Friday night, the first Friday of every month.
We don't keep them open till AM, 9 PM.
Did I say a.m.?
Yeah, I don't want them open all night, I don't think.
9 p.m. they'll close, so they won't stay open all night. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Last time, a lot of sales and stuff going on. Also, the merchants group was also talking promotional events, group advertising, storefront lighting, windows displays, possibility of directional signs to businesses on Broadway and Market Street. And the EDC also hosted updates on the Red Hook Sewer Project at the Elmendorf on March 22nd. The Community Preservation Fund Advisory Board, which I'm a member of representing the village. There were no CPF Advisory Board meetings held during the month of March. The current balance of the Community Preservation Fund as of March 31st is $754,688.20. And there are a bunch of village properties located and mentioned in the project plan for the CPF. And, it's for preservation of wetlands, historic properties, not for renovation but for preservation. There's a difference. The Sawkill Watershed Community, which I sit on, held a meeting on March 15th at the Elmendorf. There was Sarah Mount from the DEC Hudson River Estuary Program, discussed the Hudson River American Eel Citizen Science Project. Isaac Yelchin, Bard College, discussed the amphibian crossing in the Sawkill Watershed. Chris Hubert, class of 2018, and Lee Barry Sandelin, class of 2020, reviewed the updates on the Sawkill Water Monitoring Program. And Marco Spodek, also a Bard student, discussed land use, land cover, and nutrient connections in the Sawkill Watershed. And the last one, Energize Red Hook, in partnership with the New York State Energize New York, launched its program on March 8th. right here in the Red Hook Village building. I believe that was filmed on Panda. So you'll notice some signs out in front of the building for that. Attendees learned how they could take advantage of a dedicated energy coach to make their home more comfortable and affordable. And that's all I have.
Thank you. A lot of detail there, but the Energize, what he's talking about, that's something we hosted here, and it was filmed on Panda. You can go to Panda and get it. I think it shows probably on Wednesdays and Mondays, which are Town of Red Hook and Village of Red Hook days on Panda. But it's a nice sort of, let's say, sponsored with RUPCO, a local servicing agency, where you can get home energy audits and then have different options on funding the repairs. So it's a good thing. As moving to the warm weather, it helps with cooling and heating. So if you see our signs out front, or go to our website, or go to Panda and look at it. Thank you. One date that kept reappearing in Brent's report and a few others was April 22nd. It's tree planting day in the Village of Red Hook, and then it was a grand opening at the Red Hook Community Center. The community center has nothing to do directly with the Village of Red Hook. It's a separate not-for-profit entity. Dr. Varelli bought the old Christian Bible school over on Baxter and is offering it with some expenses covered to outside not-for-profits, but they're doing a grand opening. So we'll be going over there. Then one thing we're working on with the Town of Red Hook, I still haven't seen the final details, but some of us do on April 22nd, and it's always fun for new trustees, especially. We clean up the Village of Red Hook. What that is, we get garbage bags and the extender grippers that you see for taking things off shelves, and you can pick up debris that's surfaced after the snow piles melted away. It will be street sweeping, but this is things that are off the street, kind of in the sidewalks, in the bushes, in the
Cans,
main-
bottles.
main center. We get a fair amount of stuff. Then our village highway guys take it off to the dump. But it's a good thing to do, and it preps us up, preps the village up for Apple Blossom Day too. So I'll try to communicate once I have a little more detail. Usually they give gloves, bags, pickers, and oftentimes a lunch too. So we'll keep you posted. But if any of you guys back there want to walk around too in your neighborhoods, it's a good thing. One thing, when Brent always talks about that community preservation fund, my heart skips a beat because it's got $754,000 in it, but it's a town fund, and Brent mentions there are certain categories of structures and properties in the village, but so far we keep trying to get something in there to help ourselves, but we'll keep working on that, because that's not our money. That's 754.
It's a dedicated fund for, it's actually part of what they call a 2% transfer tax on, so for every transaction of real estate in the town of Red Hook, including the two villages, if the cost is above the county median price for a single-family home, 2% of the actual sales price and the county median price is put into a dedicated fund called the Community Preservation Fund, and there's a list of uses that could be for. Its primary uses to preserve farmland, but also goes into cultural resources, wetlands, trails. There's quite a long list of things, and the project plan contains every property that in the town, including the two villages that do qualify for this money. There's an application process and a review process, and it's administered by the town of Red Hook, but we do qualify being an incorporated village within the town, so it's a lot of money.
Anyway, as one listen to Brent, let's move to general business. We've wrapped up the committee and department reports. The first one on there, Brent had embedded in his reporting, but I just wanted to touch on them again. That acronym FAST grant, like he mentioned, we had gotten received the $88,000 from the state of New York, had our initial meetings. What's developed, and I mentioned to a few board members individually, but it's a monstrously complex project for $88,000. The state has offered, and we are talking to them, they can roll that money into their own DOT operating budget and give us the crosswalk guarding mechanisms we're looking for. Our point of contact down there is Martin Evans. I told him as a village we're interested in that. I think it would give us the direct benefit of getting the items we wanted without all of the management and engineering and administrative parts. They would do all that for us. He was going to run it up the ladder. He's the one that initiated that it's a potential outcome for us. But I haven't heard a firm confirmation, but I'm really inclined to go that way. It's, we'll get what we want, and,
The paperwork's a lot easier.
yeah,
I
because
mean,
we were sitting with engineers, and Jay was helping. There's more acronyms and more forms than you can imagine for $88,000, and this could get us what we want. And then Brent also checked in on the DEC charging stations. That's another grant from New York State DEC. He named the dollars and the amounts, and our filing deadline was March 31st. I do anticipate we'll get that. The town of Reddick has it, and what it also includes is the first 2 years of the electricity costs for the charging stations. But apparently the stations come with credit card readers and things that, once we decide to convert, my position is we can't gift free electricity to people that want to charge their car, but for the first 2 years, the state would be covering that, and then we would move off. The part for us, Brent mentioned a piece that's unfunded. It's our share, so to speak, and we do have about $50,000 remaining in the grant when we purchased the parking lot, and we've earmarked that for upgrades. As a group, we've talked individually. We each have a plan and idea, but if we're going to be digging at some point to put in the EV charging equipment, we might want to get a little firmer plan on at least that section of the lot. We do also have to reach out to the Chamber of Commerce. There's the kiosk there. This is to bring Charlie up to speed a little bit. It's sort of created and built years ago by volunteers, and it's not quite clear where the title sits. We've initiated contact with the chamber. The plan would be that we would just assume ownership and certain things, but we have to work that out, in a diplomatic way at a meeting or something with them. But it's something for you to put in your head, and we can talk more about too. But those are two very good things.
I have a couple more,
Okay.
just to bring it up to date. We are currently still trying to resolve the 2015 Community Development Block Grant, and we just recently submitted some certified payroll signature sheets to Dutchess Planning. There's a little bit of money left outstanding for that, and this is for the sidewalk project. So we restored a sidewalk in front of Coburn's Laundry and installed an ADA compliant sidewalk on Firehouse Lane at the firehouse. So there was some things that we're trying to resolve on that from the county level. Also, we have been kind of, I guess, on hold a little bit for the, we had a Dutchess County Municipal Shared Services grant that we had to implement some of the highway shared services. We lost our consultant, and Ed and I went to the Dutchess County Innovation Summit last week down at Poughkeepsie, and we met Gerald Benjamin of the Benjamin Center, who may be a candidate to help us as a consultant to implement some of the administrative things that we discussed about in phase 1 of the grant. So that's going forward. And also, I did put in a letter to Owen Rafter. Dutchess County has funded a pilot program involving Pace University Land Use Law Center for zoning amendments, specifically for economic development options. And I just thought that since the village is getting a brand new sewer project, economic development opportunities will increase here in the village, and we should bring our zoning up to expectations in line with our sewer and other improvements that we're doing here in the village. So that just went out actually yesterday, Sunday. So a lot of work with the grant still moving forward.
Good, thanks. Item number 2 in general business, budget adjustments. Like you all know, at the board here, we held the public hearing. We like to take the public input. It seemed like it was mainly questions. I think we answered most of them, which was our want. While we're here, we might as well talk directly. The big lingering question for me is, as a board, what do we do with the materials management? What sort of increase? How do we time it out? But since they are all interrelated, we have to get that done. I would recommend that, like we said in the public hearing, you folks think about it. And then our next workshop is April 20th. We could take the final votes there as far as, but I would leave the general fund where it is, the water where it is, and then garbage, like I said, I'm suggesting those rate increases. Let's see, which is the segue to line 3, but I think we've talked about the reason for that pricing increase. Essentially, we take our items to Ulster County Resource Recovery right across the river versus going down to the burn plant below Poughkeepsie. We do feel it's quicker, easier for our staff, our equipment, and so forth, just to get across the river. And there's no price incentive to go further south, and it would just take more time and more wear and tear on our vehicles. So we do have to live with that pricing increase. I talked about local cleanup, April 22nd. Brent talked about tree planting, April 22nd. GovPay net - court fines is on your agenda there. I have some information. I attended a session with the judge, his staff, somebody from the town of Red Hook that's on their IT committee. What it is, it's a third-party methodology to pay court fines. If you get a traffic ticket, you have a fine adjudicated by the court here. You can pay that night with cash, check, credit card. Sometimes the judge gives some conveyance of a time to pay on an installment plan, and this will enable people to pay remotely. What is, it's a third-party site. There's no cost to the village. From what I can see, it totally comports with state requirements that the courts have to deal with. And the court clerk still gets to oversee acceptance of the fines and so forth. It looks like probably most of our people pay here that night. And like, the village board doesn't directly oversee the court operations, but they would need to host it on our website. So I wanted to talk about it a little bit. They have a participation agreement, and I can circulate that to you. What essentially, when I flip through it, the fines historically in V&T world range from $75 to $150, and the service fee that this third-party entity charges is $3.75 to $5.75, and that's paid by the person electing to use the system to pay the fine. There's no cost to us. What I'd like to do, I shot it off to our lawyer, just look at it. It's about 6 pages of, I'd say, fine print. Seems to make sense, but I'd still like him to look at it. They wanted me to sign it. I think what I would prefer is if I sign and then have the court sign, since they're the one actually going to be using it. So we'd ask for that. I crafted a draft resolution, but I think we'll wait on passing that until council actually can look at it rather than making it contingent upon council's review.
Does it require any additional work by Kathy or any of the court staff to review and administer?
It requires, I don't know if the word's additional, Jay, it's, you do go online, because from what I could pick up from the seminar was, the court's under these time constraints. When a fine is paid, they have to get it over to the bank in a certain amount of time. And it is designed so that the submitting person, it goes up onto the web and then it goes into a queue, and then the court signs into this third-party vendor and can review and approve to accept it or reject it. So there is time involved doing that. But I do think it would help us from a cash flow perspective of people that are not any longer in the area that want to pay a fine. They're just not here. And the other option would be to mail it in, which would also be time. So I think it'd be an offset and maybe a little quicker.
Plus, it's only a part-time court. They're only here so many days, afternoons a week.
Yeah, and but it stays up in this queue until they look at it. So,
I mean, that's a convenience for people. It's easier.
Yeah, and they do have add-ons where they do water bills and different things, but they even do, you can do your property taxes and use credit cards, but then you're talking, if you're paying property taxes, those are big numbers to put fees on top of. So, but maybe folks that want to get air miles on their credit card might be interested. But right now, I thought we'd let the court look at it and play with it and do something, see how it works. The town's also looking at a total redesign of their whole web presence and maybe incorporating electronic payments within their capabilities. We've looked at that too, with our system, and went to one question before, we're looking at trying to upgrade our web presence too, and, but this looks, right now, you just add it on to a website, to our website, and people get directed to this GovPayNet, and then they do what they need to do and move on. So anyway, just to have you updated on that, and we'll work on that later. One thing I wanted to add, we do need a motion in line with the two police cars that are no longer in service. One's the Crown Vic and the other is the Dodge Charger. We have them over in surplus and storage. They're not usable, drivable. I would like to, I'll frame a motion, but would like to declare them surplus and move them through that Dutchess County auction system that we're part of. We've had great results, and I've talked with people in the business, and that looks like the best way to move it. Rather than just a scrap metal value, we might be able to get a little more with things. And then there'd be a component of out-of-style light bars and a few things that we would stack on a pallet and sell separately too. So I'll put a motion out that the Dodge Charger and the Crown Vic that are mechanically and physically disabled and unable to be used be declared surplus and sold through the Dutchess County absolute auction mechanism, along with any non-usable incidental materials that service the cars. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Let me just look at my notes a few more moments. We did have one thing, it's an offshoot of what Brent was talking about. To their credit, the brick and mortar merchants are working on organizing and getting some plans to get a little more vitality on the street. They held their first Friday open till 9 p.m. this past Friday, and we walked around. It was a kind of a dark, semi-rainy, not too great a night, to be honest with you, but it was fun. The stores were lit up. They're responding to certain pressures to get some more foot traffic. I think this past weekend I read something, there was 1,200 visitors at Bard. There was like a parents and new students.
Accepted
weekend.
students there.
Yeah, it was like, so I noticed a lot more action on our streets, and so we're trying to join them. And one thing that came up was board members was when one is at the traffic light corner of Broadway and Market, headed eastbound on East Market, the first upright Central Hudson pole, it's about, I don't know, 200 feet in, is an unlit pole. Historically, it never was lit. And then the first lit pole is another 200 feet or so. They feel like they would like a little more light there. I've talked to Central Hudson, confirmed that A, it is their pole. They can, Central Hudson has now moved, they have a 3,000 degree Kelvin LED capability. Remember they were first at 4,000 when they first got into the business?
A little warmer.
Yeah, so they have that. There's no upfront cost, and let's see, no upfront cost. So we would be adding that cost. And I went by, it was that same Friday night. It's one of those things one never realizes there's no light here, but when it's pointed out, it is a little dark there. So, and yeah, I think we could justify it from a street safety, street usability, walkability thing. And when one looks at the math, it'd be LED, which I think the actual wattage, if you compare it to high-pressure sodium, it's 25% of the watts that would be required to power the old lights. It'd probably be about a $150, $175 per year cost to add on to our light system. But I think everything we try to do is get that village center as active and vibrant as we can. So what we'll need to do is the Central Hudson folks, we're going to look at a little more, and there is a template resolution where we agree to add them to our retinue of streetlights. But I would recommend it. I think it'd be a good thing for the village center.
Is that something they can put in soon?
Pardon me?
Is that something they can install soon?
Well,
Or whenever their cycle is, when they come
yeah,
by?
I don't really know the answer. They are a little bit, they're not slow, but they have like a channel and a plan. I don't think they show up overnight. Like, we have requested that this pole be replaced over here, last year?
That's
And-
there.
Yeah, and they agreed to do it, but now it's going up. And that was probably, what, 4 or 5 months, you know, which was, a lot of it was winter time, but they are responsive, it's just they are big, and they don't jump right out. But I don't know if anybody had any comments on that, but I could see a nice lower, 3,000 degree Kelvin sitting there. Could
I think it'd be great for, light up that area a little bit.
Give them a little bit of action. All right. Any board general business comments that we haven't touched on?
I don't know if you want me to mention this and you can further talk about it.
What are you holding there?
S&P Global Ratings.
Oh, yeah,
Let me bring, we got a letter, the village did, that S&P Global Ratings has, I guess what it is issued our ratings, and we used to be at triple B. This is for general bond, obligation bonds. We were at triple B, they've upgraded it to A. This is based on our good work with the budgets over the years and building a reserve account and fund balance, and so this is good news for when we borrow money.
yeah, he's sounding like a real accountant there. S&P is Standard & Poor's, and each year in the late winter, early spring, they call us, and when we're in budget cycle, talk to us about changes, and they're liking the management and the control we have on budgets and expenses. Quite frankly, the village can really only survive, I don't know that we'd ever go out to the plain bonding, the commercial bonding market. It's, we found our niche in grants and low-interest loans with USDA and those sorts of things. You still can't quite compete. If you remember the numbers on the sewer, 38 years, 1.875% interest. The private sector doesn't go anywhere near that. You know, it's, as far as the interest rate or the length out. So this is great to have, and it's important that we bring it up because it's good news for everybody. And I think we did circulate it amongst ourselves, but thanks for bringing it up to the public. That being said, any other things? New guy, anything? Okay.
Not yet.
All right.
Soon.
We had a public hearing on the budget. Now we would just have general public comment on things that are on your mind. If you could, I'll try to repeat the question because we lost our mic. It's a little awkward. Normally, we don't have to do that, but who would like to go first? Mr. Beekman.
You're talking about Central Hudson.
Yeah.
I've been waiting 6 months for them to fix the light on my corner. It's a strobe light all night long.
Oh, really? Have you reported? Question is,
Yeah, I've reported it to everybody, except you can't call them because unless it's an emergency. I don't want to pack an emergency number, but I've notified the village several times. I guess it's just got to fall off the pole.
no, shouldn't have to do that.
Did you call me?
What part of the village did you call?
Did you,
I spoke to, I think I told you about it.
Oh.
I registered Brett, I told,
I don't remember you
No.
talking to me about it, but did you call me with the poll number?
I gave it to Brett.
Brett or Brent?
Brett Smith.
Steve, I wrote down the poll number, handed it in.
Now, just because Steve's not here, don't blame him.
Well, if you could get me the poll number again and call me, I
Yeah.
have a direct line to a department that replaces light
It's been
bulbs.
6 months and things flashes and popping and all night long.
Well, George, we would have taken care of it if we knew about it, but we will do it. You're probably going to get a nice 3,000 kV LED.
We'll need to turn your lights on in your house.
Well, the flash throws me off. It's blinding, it pops. That's why I have to put the shades down and keep the light from waking me up.
Should we send somebody? That sounds, should we double check his story here? No, we will, I have a hot contact to Central Hudson and she has one, so we'll work on that. Yeah. We don't even need a number. If we say Graves and Cherry, yeah, they're pretty, but if you could get a number, it's a little easier, but, okay. We don't want you flashing and popping over there.
You see, Dutchess County made history there again, and it's the 6th highest taxes in the state of New York, 37 in the country.
Dutchess County?
Dutchess County.
Wow. Who's
Well, we
the?
know what number 1 is. That's Westchester.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the funny part though, if one looks at a county tax bill, what is, seems like $1,000 a year, and that's about the county, right? When When you think of your tax bills, isn't it about 1,000 a year for county?
They said they could control sales tax revenue too, so
Yeah.
27,
Sixth in the state,
6 in the state. Wow.
37.
37 in the country.
Country. Well, I'm not defending taxes, but
I mean, you don't get much for that. I mean, they
some counties I wouldn't want to live in. So, by the way, we have two ladies in the front and Gary in the middle of the back. What's up, Gary?
Yeah, you got a ballpark figure on time frame when the streets and everybody's lawn gonna be repaired, because mine is a mess.
Yeah, we know you got hit early with the garbage truck coming off before the snow even hit. I'll explain it. We put it.
How I am on my lawn.
Oh, I know, and glad to explain it. We put it in the newsletter, and we met Friday. We have these brainstorming Fridays. We had the engineer, and if you heard in Brent's report, Phase 2 water is not closed out. What that means is the contractor, he's got some more work to do, and one of them is there was a bit of a problem with mismatching. Remember how they put topsoil once, and we grew plants I don't think we've ever seen in Red Hook in our lives, you know? Yeah, like, I think there were pineapple weeds or something growing there.
Carrots, I had some carrots.
But, yeah. Well, you were the one of the few that went and did it. But they are obligated to come back. And today, I don't know if you saw Dan riding around, we got a golf cart. We got the golf cart so we can go slow and look. And we had our water operator where they were physically inspecting, monitoring. We have about 3 problems. There was a seeding thing. They're going to come back and do that. There was some settling at the outside edge of the curb, just in general, not from vehicles running off, just it settling. And Brent can fill in a little bit, but the curb area was designed with a green infrastructure concept where in many cases there's some perforated pipe laying down below some gravel to pull some drainage to catch basins. Not in every piece, and I don't know if you're in my area has that, but
Garden Street is connected,
yeah,
yeah.
I don't know if they put pipe.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
Yeah, well, you probably saw when they installed it, they put the curb in, then they put gravel, PVC pipe, then the fabric, and then more gravel. And there's about 10 inches of topsoil on top of that. So it was crowned so that the water comes down, drains into your yard. And it's actually been very few puddles. Yeah, so it's the ruts that,
But,
so, and then we've had some plowing incidents, you know, and
Yeah, that was the third thing he.
even in front of my house, when this pole came down, people were rerouted down Fraley, the church, the garden, and wrecked up my lawn too, so.
Saying that phase 2 with Jerson is in the making or possibly ready to go, or?
So we have a punch list, and on that punch list are areas of this dirt. There's a few shut-off valves that are high and low too, but the dirt and reseeding are part of that punch list. Yeah, they were around the corners.
If you look, this whole southwestern quadrant, you guys take the time, just ride it, you'll see almost every turn is where people can't make the turn on the road, they're up on everybody's lawn. And it's almost every corner.
Well, yeah, that is a fourth thing, but let's stay the first 3, then we'll go to the fourth. So on the Jerson World, they owe us some time and some money. What we're debating is, do we bring them back and have them do it, or do we just have them give us the money to have our guys do it? And our plan
I
is,
think you're stretching you guys a little thin because
well,
the
yeah,
second issue is the pickup
the,
of leaves and brush
Yeah.
and whatnot.
Then,
Last month, or last year, one time, the brush sat in my driveway for 2 months. And I confronted you about it. I
Yeah,
said, so if they don't have time to do this stuff, we just keep loading them with more and more.
we think we're okay there. Last week was totally rainy, so they got behind. Well,
It was almost 2 months for it to
yeah, I don't know what that was, but
pick up the brush.
I think,
You remember what it was?
yeah.
It was at your house.
no, I remember talking about it. But I forget what the conflict was. But there's 3 things with the project. Like we said, a bad seed, bad topsoil event, number 1. Then we tried number 2 with the contractor. We've got some settling. We are aware, like we put in the newsletter, and we're going to pick that up. It's some, like he said, where people just drove off the road for some routing changes that when there was an accident or a tree down or a pole down. there was a church night and people went off certain streets on Church Street. We'll do that on our dime. We're gonna look for Jerson on their dime for certain things. And then on the turn radius, curb radius, that's an engineering decision.
You don't get a new engineer on the second project because it's not working as
Well,
you can see.
I would disagree.
Yeah, I would too.
Well, look across the street from your house, that
No, I know.
corner on Benner and Garden.
No, and it's amazing to me because the concept is to design, by design, slow the traffic, make them stop, make them go slower. And people are going, kind of making their own interchange, you know, it's like, so we will reseed it and we're gonna make it so we have to adjust certain stop bars, which will happen in the spring, certain stop signs to get people, like, you know, living on that corner, it's sort of a thoroughfare traffic exit off Benner, you know, it's, a lot of them don't stop, so they're just coming through. Yeah. Yeah. But on your bigger,
Had that conversation.
oh yeah, well, that's ongoing. But on your bigger question, we are doing, you will see them out there this week. They'll be starting on our stuff and then the Jerson stuff. But, well, we're bringing them in. We sat last Friday with our engineers and, I don't know the date they're coming back, but the question we had was, shall we hydro seed again? Which we keep doing and we keep not getting a good bite on the hydro seed, you know, so that's what they're working on now with Jerson.
I think what his comment is, if you talk about the actual geometries of the roads, which is the radius at the corners and the widths of the lanes, what you've got is if you have a car, say, heading north on Church Street, gonna turn onto Prince, if you are in your lane and another car is coming west on Prince Street, you cannot make that turn while they are at the intersection unless you either wait for them to exit or you run over off the road. It's that, I think that's the geometries that he's actually speaking of right there.
And we're looking at that too, if it's a matter of where the stop bar is located. If it's too close to the corner, most of them don't even come to the backside of the radius. And I noticed that on, well, they do. I mean, I watched one,
Come over to Garden Street.
well, come over to church and
Sit with me in my front lawn for one day.
come sit on my front porch. I live on the corner, so you see my ruts there.
Yeah.
So that's because of when they rerouted traffic, and I can tell you, most of those ruts, because the car coming north on Church Street was right to the edge of Fraley, and the car could not get around that. And I saw them, and I was out there putting things in those ruts so they wouldn't run into it. But there's some adjustments, but those are 15-foot radiuses, yeah.
I'm just saying mainly for the other 3 quadrants of the village that are apparently gonna get done, you might wanna seriously look at that turning.
Well, if you look at what's there now, there really isn't any turning radiuses defined. It just, it's where the asphalt dies and crumbles.
Along with the southwest quadrant.
I walk it constantly.
5%.
I agree with,
People are driving on lanes.
But that's, we're listening here, but it's also deliberate. We believe the southwest quadrant is not designed to be a cut-through. So you can't, like, the other option would have been make the roads wider, so then they go 42 miles an hour and cut through, you know, so.
We believe it's not to be a cut-through, but
Right.
it is a cut-through.
Yeah, but if enough people say, gee, I have a tough time turning down because somebody's facing me from the, these are all four-way stops. So theoretically, on Jay's example, one, should I signal, okay, you go first, I go next, you know, it should be some sort of logic to it. And that was deliberately designed. It's not an engineering,
Go into common sense, but that's one from the world.
pardon me?
We won't even go into common sense, because that is one from the world.
Well, that's a very nice insult, thank you, but,
Well, that's the way I feel it,
it's,
and that's what I see on
it's-
common spaces anymore.
what would one put, 4-lane highway, 60-mile-an-hour speed?
No.
That could work, you
They
know?
should have listened to some of the people and with the turning radiuses before they accepted what this engineer put in.
No, that was deliberate, so, but anyway, it's designed to keep the quadrant livable. It's not a bypass neighborhood, you know, and I think it'll help. But anyway, did you have more? Okay.
Village Police Department.
Yep.
Me and you have had this conversation on front lawn,
Mhm.
you were well aware of. our village police department constantly entering a poll for the town of Red Hook on the first poll and going out of the village when that car is not assigned to the village on those days that the poll is going out?
I would disagree. You work for 911, which, by the way, we should thank you. It's, understand this week is Telecommunicators Appreciation Week. Is that true? And, but Gary, but he has what's more insight, so to speak, than the average person. We did have a conversation. I can tell you which.
Yeah, in my house,
Which-
so I do hear what's
Yeah.
going on.
But we have had conversations. This board is not interested in paying for town patrols unless we're being reimbursed by the town. This year, the town came up with some more money. I think those guys saw it, and you can see it, they're starting to honor more commitment. The problem is, on first poll, I would say they should not go, but if there's an officer that needs assistance or a life situation, it's hard for us to be, playing God, and, you know, we would not, we're not in the first poll unless there's a shift on. Now, I don't know, the shifts are inconsistent, meaning we don't deliberately say a certain day is always a town shift. We do rotate them just so there are better coverages for the town. So, but point taken.
Is that gonna be addressed?
Yeah. It is always
Because I
addressed.
believe it was last Sunday or the Sunday before, there was a psychiatric emergency in the town of Red Hook. Our village patrol went out of the village, which I know there was only one car on, ended up transporting that person to Mid-Hudson Regional. So now our village patrol is out of service for 2 hours. Why?
Well, could you be more specific, and I'll make a note? Sunday?
I'll get you a date.
Mm.
I'll get you a date, Wednesday morning, I'll have it for you.
And I could see if we had one shift on or what we had.
And the other thing is, I would like to see some patrols start doing our side streets because
Mm.
Garden Street has become a raceway again. Me and you have had that conversation,
Mm.
you disagree with me, but they blow the stop sign at Garden and Smith constantly.
Mm.
you know.
Well, we did ask two things. It's hard to hide them on Garden Street. We park them sometimes down,
Right along Smith.
we hide them down there sometimes. We have asked, with the snow drifts melting away, we're gonna bring back that speed trailer and just put it up as a reminder, you know, float it around. These are neighborhoods, you know, and that's the whole concept. is,
You know yourself that Garden Street has a lot of kids.
Oh, yeah, it's tough. Yeah, I can't understand. There must be a lot of garages that sell a lot of brakes. I mean, they leave a stop sign, get up to 33, and then hit the brakes, 400 feet later? and come- Well,
I have stop signs on my phone.
yeah.
Four of them are invisible. In the evening, nobody stops. They don't start stopping until about 7 in the morning. Of course, police aren't on at that hour, so who cares? But they're doing 35, 40 miles an hour.
We're getting a signal from our camera guy.
I can't hear anything they're saying.
Okay.
Like they want to keep
Okay. All right. We're talking, sorry, Panda watchers, the members of the audience are talking about speed and stop sign and issues on the side streets of the village. We're talking about responding with police. And one question too is out of village patrol by village police in town territory, are they on town shift day or not, and responding to first polls? And those were the nature of my responses. And one of the members of the audience will bring me some more data on something recent from a Sunday. What else? Board members, audience members? Yep.
Has the village been in contact with the town about more coverage for the town?
Yes.
What do they say? Because right now they're getting my feeling is they're getting a free service.
Let me repeat the question, just so we don't stumble into that. The question, and we should just identify it, it's Mr. Kuhn from the Village of Red Hook. He's asking, has the town of Red Hook been approached to contribute more dollars toward the police than they currently provide? And the answer is yes. The town is on a different fiscal year. They are calendar year. So we went to them October-ish. They started building their budget at that point, about 60 days out from, and we asked for a lot more money. And we got some more money. So you'll see that in the budget, and then that's part of the driver when you see police salary going up. It's to cover more shift. But it is, yeah, the number was, it's broken down a few different ways, but the base patrol number had been 50,000. We've got it up to 62.5, and then the town, when we run court and things down there, we're the security for court. There's a separate line item that you'll see for court officer, so it's, but quite frankly, in my, ultimate preference, I think there should be a town police department. They're a much bigger budget base than we are, and we've told town officials that, we can't be patrolling them for free, and they've got $1.2 billion tax base. We have a $200 million tax base, and that would be, if the public felt they wanted to go that route. But right now, we just give them the shifts, and our understanding is if they have somebody down or needs help, they'll roll out. But it's
If a life-threatening emergency, I don't have a problem with it, they answer every single call.
they're not advised to do that, and we've asked them told them not to do that. So we'll check it. Give me that one, and I can bring it up, because specifics talk better than general.
I'll get it to you Wednesday.
Other than that, I would say we have that April 20th is the workshop, and then we need to pay the bills. So is there a motion to pay bills off after what?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then we generally, historically, use Mr. Brent Kowalczyk to,
BK Broiler, go ahead, baby.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night, everybody.